Revelation 3147. From the 3rd of June 1944. Course of development phase in eternity. Concept of time. The adversaries will cause creatures to arise which were far away from God through their will. Divine love, however, did not want to leave these creations at a great distance from him, and therefore brought himself close to them in order to turn their will towards himself. These beings were free to decide to whom they wanted to belong, yet the will placed into them remained with the Creator, and thus the distance from God was not reduced but increased, for now it was the beings themselves who were to blame for this distance. And yet the merciful love of God did not let them fall, but created ways and means to win them, albeit after an endless time. Eternities have already passed, and many more eternities will pass before every created being has again arrived at the original center where it once began. The divine love has been courting the love of these beings for eternities, and the light has been wrestling with the darkness for eternities. But God's love has not yet diminished. It is active in undiminished strength around the fallen spiritual and constantly gives it opportunities to reduce the distance between itself and God. Incessantly new creations arise for the purpose of the return of strength to the elementary power, which has certainly distanced itself from it but can never ever separate itself from it. And again, these eternities are like fleeting moments for a perfect spiritual being, and the infinitely long ascent from the abyss to the height appears to it like a moment when it has completely united with God again and can work in all fullness of light and strength according to divine will. For eternity still lies ahead of it, and the being of light encompasses past, present and future with its spirit. It knows the course of its development and yet only has the awareness of a moment, because everything imperfect completely sinks into the stage of bliss which emerges from perfection. The more imperfect the being is, the more tormenting the feeling of time is for it, and the period of time appears to it as an eternity during which it is in a spellbound state. However, once it has regained its freedom, there is no longer an agonizing state for the being. Likewise the concept of time and space disappears. The being certainly knows about the time of its development, but whether this also required eternities, it appears short to it because in the state of perfection it no longer knows any narrow limitation and thus also regards the unfree state as a very short phase in eternity, which it has finally overcome and which is therefore extinguished for the being as soon as the kingdom of light has received it. Amen.